All right, welcome back to Brian's Knives. We're doing something different today, and we're going to talk about the men behind the knives. One of my favorite things about pocket knife collecting are the personal connections back to those who went before me. And I'm going to highlight just a few of those today. I could talk about many other people as well in my family, all who carried knives. But I want to talk about both of my great grandfathers, my grandfathers, and so we're going to do that today. I hope you enjoy it. I know this is a little bit of a different kind of content, but I think you probably have stories too. And I would challenge you to tell some of those stories, especially if you're a content creator. And if you're not, I hope you'll leave some comments and share some stories about the men in your family and even the women that you may know or that you grew up with that carried knives. So we're going to start with my great grandfather, McClell Richardson. He was born in 1885, died in 1991, 106 years old when he passed. He was quite a character. He was a lay preacher in the Baptist church. He was a carpenter. He worked at the ammunitions depot. And he worked at least one distillery over the years. He was a big man, and it showed. You couldn't meet him and not know that he was a big bone kind of guy that could handle some heavy work. And he was a guy that always carried a knife. He loved to fish. He loved to hunt. And so always carried a pocket knife. And my uncle, as I said in my last video, remembers that he did have a case canoe at least. And I'm sure he had some other knives as well over the years. But he was certainly one of the men that I remember in my life. And then there was his dad that I thought I would just point out, McClellan Richardson, who was quite a character. He worked at the estate of Cassius Clay at Whitehall. And was kind of a rough and tumble guy. You didn't want to mess with McClellan. And so, I don't remember him. He was dead long before I was born. But my suspicions are that, he was a guy that carried a knife with him at all times. Certainly, my great-grandfather learned that from his father. And so I thought it would be interesting to include him in this as well. He had an interesting story appear in a local newspaper in Danville, Kentucky in 1903. And it talked about that he was severely injured repairing some machinery at a sawmill. And the last phrase of that little snippet says, he may recover. So he must have been hurt pretty badly. He did recover because he lived another 25 years beyond this injury. But like I said, he had some interesting times, and I'm pretty sure I remember reading that he was in an altercation defending the property there, the estate of Cassius Clay. And so, like I said, I don't think he was one that you wanted to tangle with too much back in his day. Definitely a large man as well. And definitely a man who knew the value of a good pocket knife. So, he shows up in quite a few newspaper clippings and searches, partly due to his sister who married Cassius Clay as a very, very young lady, like pre-teenage or very early on. So, okay. Moving on to my grandfather, Charles Gillis, on my mom's side. That's a picture of him in his mechanic's outfit back probably in the early 50s. He was an auto mechanic most of his career. It ended up as a factory mechanic or industrial mechanic. He always carried a knife and always carried nail clippers. You can just guarantee that if you needed a knife or needed a set of nail clippers, my grandfather had those on him. Mostly in his later years, I remember him carrying a penknife of some sort or a small pocket knife, usually a one or two bladed knife. But certainly he knew all about the value of a good knife. He hunted and fished, and so you had to have a pocket knife to do those things and do them well. And then I included a later photo of him, me, and my grandmother. And I think we're almost there. Yeah. And this must have been taken, I'm going to say, right around the year 2000, roughly. And you can tell by his stature where I get my stature, and that's from the Gillis side of the family. And then there's the Sherwoods. There's my grandfather, me, and my dad, and my great-grandfather. And all of these men carried knives. My dad primarily packed Schrades or old-timers. Of course, like every man during the era, he had a buck 110. I clearly remember him carrying that. And I have a suspicion my grandfather and great-grandfather carried the same. All right, guys, that's it from here. Hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did in putting it together. And like I said, leave me a comment below. Tell me some of your stories. Or better yet, if you're a content creator, go make your own video. And let's talk about the people, the men, the women behind the knives. All right, guys, well, have a great Sunday. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you in the next video.